User the OP Warrior 208 has just made a Reddit post delineating a very significant change in tripwires. I know, it seems trivial, but it's not. This can come down to another one of those arguments where Minecraft is just making changes that you can change yourself by making a resource pack. But I, for one, believe this is something that most people do. Even I do it. Now, I have a stone brick platform in front of me. I also have a grass platform. Now, you can barely see it, but you might notice tripwires lining the surface of this grass platform. It is also lining the surface of this stone platform. It is far more hidden or more camouflaged here because tripwires are gray in color. It is also fairly effective here because the noise of string is neutralized by the grass blocks. Now, some of you may not be aware of this, but let me just explain it to you. String is not just used in tripwire contraptions. If I just line some redstone across, you can see that by doing so, crossing the tripwire has activated the redstone wire. This is not the only use case for string. In fact, I don't believe this is really the main use case. By lining this surface with string, snow layers are unable to accumulate on the surface of this platform because the block space is occupied by string. And because string is just so invisible, this is just a very nice way to prevent this from happening. Unfortunately, here you have some snow. Visually suspending a string block will also prevent bamboo from growing or any plants. So if you want to prevent anything from occupying this block space, just use an invisible block, and string is just so appropriate. Now, elaborate intro aside, what has happened? I'm going to stand over here and I'm going to switch over to 26.1, the latest version. Do you immediately see what has changed? This entire world gen is filled with tripwire. And Mojang have changed the rendering properties of tripwire such that they now use the alpha cutout method, which basically means that tripwire no longer renders transparent by default. Instead, the pixel information is cut out and rendered as is. And what do you see from here? The tripwire is just so obvious. You can just see the comparison, which I will show you in a second on GIMP. Now, I have not noticed this myself because I don't play survival on snapshot versions. But anyone who does or loads up a world or tests anything with tripwire, on a snapshot, it is really clear. So this is 26.1 snapshot 3. If I just go through the changelog here, the tripwire texture is now rendered as alpha cutout instead of transparent. In other words, the texture is now opaque, thus making tripwire easier to see. This is on the official patch notes. The tripwire texture is now rendered as alpha cutout instead of transparent. That is all they say. I will explain to you what that means. So on the left, you have 121.11 and older. On the right, you have 26.1. So you'll notice that on the left, you have transparency rendering. You can see right over here, the grass is rendered behind it, so therefore it is less visible. On the right now, with the alpha cutout, the information for each pixel is rendered as is, and you can hardly see the grass behind it. There's a little bit of it, and that is only because the opacity of the tripwire block is not so opaque. Alright, so let me give you a full rundown what has changed. If you place down tripwire right now, you can see it's literally like a string of beads on the block. You can totally see it, it's no longer invisible. If I connect it with a tripwire hook like so, you can still see it, but it's just using a darker layer of the texture. I do believe there's some consistency argument here. Not sure what it is, but maybe Mojang just wants to make sure that any block that's placed on the ground is more visible so players will know to break it if they want to. Imagine trying to break a block you can't see. But I struggle to reason with that argument given that most players use tripwire in this way to block interactions, and they don't want builds to all of a sudden have visible blocks like this. Now, obviously, you can change it with a resource pack. It's just one of those things. So this is something that you can definitely fix. This is how tripwire works. It's 3 elements that use the exact same portion of the texture file, unless it's attached. And when it is attached, it's using the bottom layer, which is a little bit darker. That's why when you have tripwire that's attached, it's less visible. And this bit here is a little bit brighter. It's not because this is more transparent, it's because it's just using a darker layer. This is the attachment, it's exactly the same thing. And the brightness is of course far more pronounced when you have more elements. To fix this, and it really baffles me that Mojang haven't done this, all you have to do is go down here to the opacity and make it as low as you want. And to make it pretty similar, you should probably get it to about 20%. So it's pretty obvious to me that this is something that Mojang intended. So we'll apply this change, and if you go back in game, you can see that the tripwire is a lot more invisible now. Go over here, you can hardly see it. The old visibility of the tripwire can be achieved with a resource pack. So yes, there we have it. String has indeed been ruined. Thank you for telling me. I will say I still think it's dark enough to miss, but oh boy is it much easier to spot now. Trap creator's gonna be pissed.